These are just dear recollections I have of Eleanor and Walter LaSalle and their living legacy of love that they shared with all mankind. I met them in 1951. They were members of Sixth Church of Christ Scientists in Kansas City. And Eleanor invited me up to the apartment for a little cup of tea and wanted to share her story of love with me. And it was very dear. When Walt was just a young man, he joined the RAF. And for those who need to know, that's her Royal Air Force. And he was a fighter pilot, very brave, went on many missions, and was extremely successful until his last one. And he was so shot up, and his plane was so shot up, that it crashed. And when it crumbled, so did his embodiment. And they didn't have any hope for him to ever recover and to be healed. He was sent back to the States, to a convalescent center. Eleanor had become a volunteer to go to the infirmary, and a group of the ladies would take books and read to these gentlemen to just make their days a little bit brighter and a little bit more filled with courage and really not feel so alone. And her bedside was Walt's, and she chose Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. She was a devoted student of Christian Science and really felt that this might have a message that would be very special for this man. And as she read to him, the change that came over was just beautiful. They had told him he would never recover from any of his wounds. He was incurable. And little by little, he regained his strength and his abilities, and he was soon dismissed from the hospital upright, pure and free. Walter had never heard of Christian Science. This was his first journey down the legacy of love, where there was no limitation as God's child. And his bonus was that he and Eleanor became a couple forever and ever. He regained his strength, and he was able to hold a position in the banking world. He went to work for a savings and loan company. And he was really well loved by these men because he had a very upright thought. He was successful, and she and he put away a pretty decent-sized savings account through the productive years. But then our country faced a disaster. This was the Great Depression of 1929, and it lasted for some 5 or 6 years at least. And homes and farms and businesses were being repossessed. And they gave Walt the honor and the duty to be the main man that was going to go and repossess these farms and homes and businesses. And he and Eleanor really prayed about this because they knew that love had no limitation, physically or financially. And they wanted to see this for everyone. And they prayed, how could this be done? So he did foreclose. He was a very honest businessman, and he was obedient to his bosses. But the beauty of it was that he offered to purchase that home or that business or that farm on one condition, that they would repay him when they could. This is the way men did business. They shook hands, and their word was their bond. But he never, ever pressed anyone for repayment. He wanted to see them develop and grow and know that they had no fear. Pay me back when you can. I don't recall either one of them saying that someone defaulted on their payments. They weren't regular payments. They didn't have any time set up. It was just they gave of their heart's rich overflow, but nobody defaulted. And his fortune grew because there was no limitation to love. And he could see this had nothing to do with money. Well, years went by and it was retirement time. And he could retire from business, but he just couldn't retire from loving all mankind. And when he saw a need of someone who needed glasses or a pantry filled, whatever it was, he would meet that need quietly and unassumingly. Many of the things that Walt did were really unseen by a great many people because he never spoke of them. And I think there were recipients who never knew that it was Walt that helped them. He was a very wise, but he never, ever made a choice for anybody. He always brought this to their attention in one way or the other and then let God guide them the rest of the way. That's a magnificent talent. He was Abraham Lincoln, tall and lanky, and Jimmy Stewart, strong. And when he spoke, you wanted to hear what he had to say, but he said it with such a sense of depth of understanding that you really appreciated. He was a man of few words, really, but when he spoke, it was worth hearing. There wasn't a beginning and an end to what Walt did. It was his life's work that he just gave. It was part of his gratitude for his healing. There was not enough payback for all the good that he had received. One of the things I think that probably is an attribute all of us could assume from him is being aware. I think many times we just don't always see another's need. And there's something that says to see another's need and supplying it, finding your own and another's good. But he had that great insight where he could see a person's need and he could give without making them feel less. They always felt more. It was filled up full. And their gratitude spilled over, and then they gave in return. I think Eleanor and Walt thought that the whole world was their family. And they just gave of their heart's rich overflow, but it came from the teachings of Mary Baker Eddy. And we have something written on many of our church walls that we love so dearly, but it was their standard of life, and its divine love always has met, and always will, meet every human need. Well, some of his church friends knew what Walt was doing, and sometimes they would just hand him an envelope with $1 or $2. In those days, $1 was big. And one day, one of the church members said to him, "Walt, you can't do this alone. We need to get together." And so a group of the men met, and the Principal Foundation was born. There was a thought of unlimited love, never about money, but about seeing God's ever-presence in everyone's life, unlimited. The principles on which you found your life, it's always there. It's not something that comes and goes. It's steady. And the healing that comes from breaking limitation, that was the foundation stone of his Principal Foundation.